Okay, well, I don't want to keep anyone waiting. There's the idea of tirchat tzibura, just empty space. So I'm going to, while the Representative Brenda Lawrence is getting comfortable, I think we'll sit right here, and I'll sit here. I just want to introduce, we are so thrilled. I am so thrilled personally. Detroit is excited to be here in D.C. at JCPA 2020. We're speaking with Representative Brenda Lawrence about rebuilding the Black-Jewish alliance to fight for a better country. And Representative Lawrence she's represented Greater Detroit area and come to Congress. She came to Congress in 2014, and before that, she was the beloved mayor of Southfield, Michigan, which is an incredibly integrated community. Southfield.
Yes.
Your constituents include numerous cities and townships that are very diverse, including high density of Jews, African American community, Chaldean community, and a Muslim community. And you bring everyone together, and you're a visionary and founder of a newly created Congressional Caucus on Black-Jewish Relations. Partnering with, now this is an exciting list.
Very diverse.
Congresswoman Deborah Wasserman Schultz, Congressman Lee Zeldin, Congressman John Lewis, and Congressman Will Hudd. So it's incredible. Hurt, sorry, thank you. So it's an incredible gathering. And AJC helped launch this caucus. And our own Detroit Coalition for Black and Jewish Unity is very close to you, loves you so much, and is really inspired by the work you're doing. You've inspired all of us in Detroit, and really the American Jewish community finds you inspiring for how our communities can continue and should work together. So let me ask you just a couple of questions.
Yes.
And then we'll open it to this incredible group here. First of all, it's an honor to be with you, and I know you had a busy day, and thank you so much for coming out here and meeting with us.
Oh, this is great. It's something I want to talk about and build a consensus and awareness and a coalition around the country, because I feel this is a great, great opportunity for our communities.
And funny you should mention, because our audience is made up of leaders of the Jewish community relations field from all over the country. And one of our major priorities is to ensure strong relationships with the Black community, locally and nationally, to work together to create, God willing, a fair and just American society. So if you could start by sharing with us, please, why you decided to create the Congressional Caucus on Black-Jewish relations, and what's your vision for what it can accomplish? Why now? And why you think it's important for this caucus to exist at this time?
So, first of all, thank you so much. I just got off the plane, had to go to a speaking engagement and fly across town here. So I'm just glad to be here. Since I've been in Congress and all my public service, starting from the school board, I've had to interact with the Jewish community, my neighbors, the community leaders, the business leaders. So many of the institutions of the Jewish community were located in Southfield, Michigan. So because of that came in my public service, a responsibility to serve, to make sure that I protect and provide services for the Jewish community. So I've never had this sense of them and what's so unique or different, because I was ingrained in the traditions and the culture of the Jewish community. So flashback to now being in Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, I just said at the last speaking engagement, I love this country. I love America for all the rights and freedoms that I have. But every generation gets what I call a slap in the face or a call to action. And the call to action that I am living and breathing every day, being a member of Congress, is how divided our country is. The elevation of hate crimes, the divisiveness, those people and them and us. And growing up, having the blessing growing up in southeastern Michigan that has such a rich Jewish population and a very strong African American population. And so because of that, I've been really in tune to the history. You know, I have a Holocaust museum in my district. I have the African American Museum in my district. Knowing the history and being an African American, you know, I am proud of the diversity of my history, struggle all the time with creating legacies of positive growth. And every year when we do Martin Luther King's, you know, celebration or Black History Month, we talk about the Civil Rights Movement. And you cannot talk about the Civil Rights Movement without including the men and women of the Jewish community who not only stood side by side with Black people in America, but actually gave their lives. For me, whenever I talk about Black history, and we talk about those who give their life, I always include the Jewish members of the community who lost their lives as well. We have been identified as the top two groups in America during this hard time for hate. You receive hate because of your religion, your culture. There's really no reason to hate the Jewish community, but that's the lame excuse. We continue to hear some of the same stereotypes and hatred. But one of the statistics I had in my last speech is that hate crimes are now elevating to violence. There was a time in America where hate crimes were like smearing a racist comment or anti-Semitic comment on a public place, or posting something that was anti-Semitic or racist. Now it's elevating to violence. If anyone knows how to stand up and fight for justice, for civil rights, it's the Black and Jewish communities. And so I'm sitting there, you know, given all this history about how we work together. I said, you know what? This is our call to action. We need to come back together, and we need to stand side by side. Because every time, as Martin Luther King told us, injustice to one is injustice for all, to all. And our history shows that we as communities believe that, because we've stood together. And I know you have other questions, but one of the things that I'm having after forming the caucus is that we will have a field hearing on hate crimes in New York. And it was coming up in the next month, where we will bring members of Congress, leaders in the Black and Jewish community, to talk about what's happening. What can I do as a member of Congress to write legislation to ensure our Justice Department is doing what it should do, that we're not being silent? And so, unfortunately, so many times in the past, it wasn't until it reached, and we're almost there now, but this critical, massive level of hatred and violence that we finally stood up and said we have to take action. So what can we do? And so we're assembling this. One of the things you need to know about the co-chairs, I did not want this to be partisan. So Will Hurd and Lee Zeldin. And Lee is a handful, so pray for me. We need this, because that's the other biggest fear that I have, is that the relationship between Israel and the United States become a partisan issue. My caucus deals with what's happening here on the ground in America, but I'm also sensitive to the fact that our relationship with Israel has now it's slowly, they keep turning it, trying to make it, they don't support Israel, we do, or they're anti-Semitic, or they're this. And we cannot allow that to happen. Our relationship with Israel has always been strong, and it's been strong because we've been together.
Wow, so that raises a lot of questions. So I would, first of all, your launch party with 30 members of Congress was an incredible. Someone says that no one knows how to throw a party like Representative Brenda Lawrence. So it was just so amazing. And
we packed the room out, and it was so many members of Congress. And let me tell you, when you know you're doing something right, I had members of Congress who are not African American or Jewish saying, "Well, we want to be a member." Okay, we figure out a way that you can be like associate member or something.
So let me ask you, you mentioned what can we do about it, and that's what you feel. To our group of community relations, Jewish community relations professionals, what can we do to assist you in our communities?
I live in Southfield, so many the Jewish newspaper, the Jewish Vocational Center, schools. I see all of these social groups that are working toward improving quality of life, not just for the Jewish community, but that's what's so powerful about there's something flying around in the middle of winter, and it's big too. I hope it doesn't bite. The thing that if you want to improve the community, you can't just improve your community. It should be for everyone. So I have seen some amazing outreach and returning citizens. I went to the Jewish synagogue in my community, in my neighborhood, and I said, you walk past a local school in the community, and their reading is not where it should be. I said, what can you do? And I had a group of retired teachers who started a program where they go into the local school and do literacy, reading books and helping tutor the children. I mean, that's just a simple example. And what I asked of everyone here, and history has given us a blueprint for it, when we talk about, let's take the issue of returning citizens, we know that if a person is not given an opportunity, that they know how to be a criminal. It's no doubt, they've done it well, they've gotten the trophy of being imprisoned. What we do to turn that around improves our communities, it improves our society. What we do when we educate children, so many Jewish teachers were part of the Detroit public school system, educating in Black neighborhoods, teaching the children. I mean, you don't get more ingrained into a community than when you're a teacher. You see the good, the bad, the ugly. You know the potential of a child, not because of how they worship or what their last name is. You see the potential in the individual child. Those are things that you can bring, that we can work together on. And for me, it is making sure that when we see injustice to our Jewish community, that we speak up too, that we stand up, that we just don't say, it's the Jews, I'm okay. No. And in Southfield, we had to do that because my neighbor is Jewish. That's literally my next door neighbor, the person across the street. And so that sense of community, this is something that may not come out right, but in Michigan, those of you from it, the Black community has always trailed the Jewish community because you usually broke through the segregation and then Black community, because you would sell a home to a Black person, you would recognize historically that discrimination based on housing is unacceptable. And you know, during the civil rights movement, there were some Jewish people who show up to see the house, to say they were buying it, and then when it was time to purchase, it was a black person signing it. Housing in America is a big issue. Education, criminal justice, these are things that we can work on together. I have a young man that I mentored. I'm very proud of him, Jeremy Moss. He's now a state senator. Yeah. And Jeremy and I were talking because I had a nephew who's losing his way. And I said, oh my God, I hope he, I said, I got to get him back on the track. I said, I got to get him in college. And he was listening intently. He said, you know, I don't have a single friend that did not go to college. I have never had that conversation about someone not going to college. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, if they didn't go to college, it was something amazing. They created something or they started their own business. He said, but I've never had that conversation in my circles. And it was an eye-opener for him that just the conversation about educating or empowering a person was a real concern, and it was on my plate.
Yeah, I mean, that's so fascinating that you're as a member of Congress, you know, with all the big legislation that you're involved in, you're talking really to us as on a person-to-person level in our communities, just connecting with people. It's such find it such a compelling message. Where are the challenges in the Black-Jewish Alliance? I mean, you've spoken so beautifully about the opportunities and about great history. Where are challenges and maybe opportunities for now?
So I can say this in this room. I've worked hard enough, you know my story. There's a certain amount of envy of the Jewish community. Yeshiva Beth Yehuda, which is one of the major schools, has the largest sit-down dinner for an educational institute. And
3,000 people.
Yes. And when I go, because I go to Young Israel's annual big dinner, and they always honor these amazing young children. And to see what before they go off to college, and what they talk about is how they have been teaching the next generation, how they volunteered in the community. But for me, if I did not know you, I would think you're very close-knit and you only are concerned about yourself. And so when we get the opportunity, we're doing a good job in Detroit of having the Black Jewish Alliance, but for me, the opportunity is with the next generation. It's a lot of old heads in here. My hair isn't dyed, some of yours are. But we get it and we work toward it, but are we passing the baton to the next generation to say how important it is? And I see some of the most amazing community activists come from the Jewish community. And when I see them, they're usually not by themselves, but they're just kind of part of another group. And that is one of the things that I think we can work on. And we do it in our churches, because we do a good job in Detroit where we visit each other's churches. And I know you all have such envy over the music. I'm sorry. I told the cantor, you got to get everybody clapping and moving. You know, you'll have the same fun.
Keep trying, keep trying.
But we have an opportunity with the next generation, because I go to the Jewish events. I go to the holidays, going into the homes during Seders, and it just seems so closed. But as you become, this population, your age group, you're very deliberate into being inclusive. And sometimes I look at these amazing young people. I mean, their stories are just phenomenal. And your schools, oh my goodness. I visited one of the elementary schools and I walked in and the kindergarten class was in yoga. You know, and they knew the doggy down, the whole thing. They had the music going and they're just, oh my goodness, I'm saying, look at teaching the children about being calm, the love of country, how they learn another language. You know, that's something that I would love to have for my children. And you're doing it right. This is not a criticism. But I said, where is there opportunities? That's why I asked for, you know, and it was immediate. They said, okay, we're going to take this school on. I said, make it a challenge, but you're going to raise the reading level in this school right in your neighborhood, a public school that has majority African American in it. And they took it on. But those are some of the areas, and your strength is how strong you are as a community, protecting your culture and your religion. And it also is one of the challenges for those who are looking in from the outside that don't really know you.
I think it's such a powerful message of the strength that we have, that, but if we don't share it, that's where we go wrong. That's such a powerful message. I think we have 5 minutes for any questions from the audience. Yes, and maybe you want to come up to the microphone.
Oh, what's the dog's name? Allie.
I actually had the privilege of going to the
There's the show. I know. Oh, there, it's working.
It's working?
Well, speak loudly and it'll work.
Okay, I'm challenged. I'm microphonically challenged here.
Yeah. Come. Yeah.
Or come up and use his.
Remember Phil Donahue? Speaking of people with silver hair, you know.
Hi. I had the privilege of being part of the speaking in front of you with Andrea James at the bipartisan Congressional Caucus on Criminal Justice.
Yes.
So I'm formerly incarcerated, and I have a tremendous concern over hate crime legislation. My organization's entire focus is ending mass incarceration. And I find it tremendously problematic that we are considering, or that we continue to consider adding years to a sentence when we need to educate as opposed to send to prison.
I agree.
I wanted to know your opinion on it.
So just to give you divert a little bit from this topic, we just recently had legislation for fentanyl, and what it would do is the 3 strikes you're out, and as much as I deplore and want to put all the resources into fentanyl, I will never support another bill that has automatic incarceration. That 3 strikes and you're out was horrible. And I said we need to, so I will be working with other members to find ways to fight that addiction. When we talk about, and you have to understand my world is constantly turning. So today I had a women's advisory meeting talking about human trafficking. If you really want to attack an issue, you can't just do it with throwing somebody in jail. So one of the things that I walked away with and I'm going to be fighting for is establishing a human trafficking court. So often these girls and boys who are traumatized with human trafficking, and all we want to do is throw them in jail or give them some drugs to get through their stress. It should be a wraparound services that come to that. So hate crime, if someone is involved, and we're doing this with domestic terrorism, when these people are radicalized through the hatred of these outside groups, we bring them in and we try to address that programming that they have. And the same with hate crimes. I always have a lot of stories, so let me tell you this one. I was at one time a career counselor, and in order to be certified as a counselor, you have to go through counseling yourself. And so we were talking about prejudice. And so this man who was in my group said, I remember the first time I saw a black person, and he was from some rural Iowa or somewhere. He said, when I saw them, I crossed the street because I was afraid. I said, you were afraid? I said, how old were you? He said, I was about 8 or 9 or something. I said, why would you be afraid of a human being? You had to be taught that. And he became very uncomfortable with that because children are fascinated by it. I mean, I can tell you, I've had little white kids say, can I touch your hair? They touch, I remember this one little girl said, does it come off? I said, no, baby, it doesn't. And it wasn't out of meanness, it was just curiosity. She had never seen a black person before. And so we need to have wrapped around hate crimes a built-in system of anti-bias training to attack these myths and stereotypes. And I will tell you something my grandmother told me while I was a little girl during the civil rights movement, and it was when it was on TV, they were putting the hoses and the dogs on rioters in the South. And she's sitting there weeping, and I'm sitting there looking at her. I said, why are you crying? She said, Brenda, I'm going to tell you something. As a black girl in America, as a black person in America, you're going to spend the majority of your life educating people because racism and hatred is ignorance, and the other is forgiving them. Because if you become angry about it, it will consume you. And I will never forget that. And I think as much as we need to take those people, and it's hard because some of those people, you know, you want to do some things to them. But we have to understand long term is that our objective is to stop this cycle of hate through ignorance. And that's yes, so I agree with you.
Well, I just want to say you're following your grandmother's ways, and you're able to bring Republicans and Democrats together for the caucus. You're able to really inspire us to reach out and to connect, and through love and to fight hate crime. So, you know, Representative Lawrence, you're always there in Detroit for us. You always come. You come to all our gatherings, and we pledge to be there for you and for your causes.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless you.